Welcome back. On your Do Now, I wanted you thinking about the Korean War, which we learned about yesterday. Do you think America was justified? Did they have a good enough reason for going to war? Now, this is going to come down to your opinion, right? We all have to figure out what justifies war and what doesn't. But America felt the spread of communism justified war, an attack on an ally justified war, defending other allies, potential allies, domino theory, containment, all that stuff justified war. You could argue the opposite, right? That fighting for small little countries isn't worth wasting lives. Escalating conflicts isn't worth it. Potential World War III isn't worth it. Right? These are hard decisions to make, but these are decisions we have to make still today. When is it okay to start using military action? Today, we're going to look at the effects of the Cold War on people back at home, right? People living their everyday lives in the 1950s. What was it like to experience the Cold War? So, one of the things you see from both sides, the Americans and the Soviets, was an increase in espionage and spying. Um, when you're in this competition, this potential World War III, you can't let your enemy have more advanced technology than you. You have to keep up. You have to know what they're doing at all times so that you're ready to respond or to stop them. So both sides want to know what the other side is up to, what they're doing, right? Have to compete. They're a very famous group of spies. These were Americans called the Rosenbergs. They were a married couple. They were scientists. Um, they got caught stealing classified military information and giving it to the Soviets. They're one of the reasons why the Soviets were able to build their own nuclear weapons. Um, Traitors to America. So they were put on trial for treason and executed. This led to a lot of development in technology for the United States. They've got very good at spying, new rockets, new jet airplanes, cameras, all this stuff to increase spying. Here's an example of one of those U-2 planes that flew over the Soviet Union to spy and take pictures and everything. But that was a very small group of people, right? Not everyone was a spy, but the average person definitely felt the effects of the Cold War, right? There was this constant fear, living in fear that at any moment World War III would break out, that the Soviets were going to start launching nukes, start invading the United States, and they were about to try and conquer, right? That was a realistic fear that this could actually happen. The Soviet Union was never really in position to do something like that. Maybe in Asia or Europe, but definitely not in the United States. So it was definitely overblown. But the average American definitely lived in fear that this could happen. If America wasn't ready, the Soviets might invade. And it made it really scary was this idea of nuclear weapons, that the Soviet Union could launch something from thousands of miles away and start hitting and destroying our cities completely. Right? They wouldn't even have to invade. They just fly, 100 planes over the United States and they could destroy it. Watch some videos of kind of how Americans reacted. Kind of funny. They call duck and cover drills, where they try to hide from potential nuclear weapons. Both the U.S. and the Soviet Union experienced huge military buildups. So for the United States, before the Cold War, we didn't really have a big military. During wartime, we did. During like the Civil War, World War I, World War II. Outside of that, America's military tended to be fairly small. During the Cold War, we kept our military big. Right? We spent lots of money on weapons and planes. But we also had lots of soldiers. We were ready for World War III at any moment. There's also a fear that the communists would attack from within, that American people would turn communist, and they would start winning elections and changing our laws and slowly destroy America from the inside. We call this the Red Scare. The color red is associated with communism. So it's fear that like your neighbor could be a communist and they're trying to take down the United States from the inside. So during the Cold War, there's a lot of fear for average Americans. Here's a fear of those nuclear weapons exploding. The Soviets would parade their weapons and missiles around, so a very threatening way. But there's also this fear that like the average American might become a communist and start destroying the United States from the inside. There are secret Soviet spies in the country trying to take us down. And it was all very scary stuff. There was a senator, his name was Joseph McCarthy, a very famous, powerful person in Congress. Um, he suspected a lot of people of being communists, and he put them on trial. All right. Technically, being a communist isn't illegal in the United States. You can have whatever opinion you want, but he accused them of being spies and traitors. And he started, accusing anybody he didn't like as being a communist, which was a very serious accusation back in the 50s. Right? That meant you were a traitor. That meant that you hated America. That means everybody in your community would hate you and turn on you. So he accused thousands of people, and he never had really a whole lot of proof for any of it, that they were communists or that they were, harmful to America. But this just led to things getting worse, right? Increased fear and increased tensions. So some of the big ideas we're talking about today is that the fear of World War III leads to more spying, more conflict. Um, the spying leads to fear that communists are in the country, and Americans have to fight communism in their everyday life. That the average American feels like they're going to fight communism in other countries, but it could happen here too. Right? So we have to be ready for it. Your assignment for today is going to be on Schoology. You're going to look at some pictures of life in the 1950s. You want to be comparing and contrasting. So, what do you see that is similar? What are the differences? And then, why are those differences important?